Senator Corker is going to find out that, as many politicians do, once you announce your retirement, your effectiveness goes down by the day until you actually retire. And while he may have this battle with the president right now on tweets, he's not going to be able to get his Senate colleagues to say, hey, let's vote against tax cuts because I don't agree with the president on certain matters, so I'm going to tweet against him.
So some of the mainstream media are having a delicious delight with this, Katie.
Yeah.
From NPR, one of the reporters said Corker could be a bigger threat to the Republican tax bill than the party realizes. The opposite of what you just said, David. Is she right?
Look, if these senators are going to hurt the American people and not vote for something like tax reform or immigration reform, or if the Iran deal gets decertified by the White House, somehow recertifying it through Congress on the Iran deal because they have a personal beef with the president, that is their problem, and they will face the voters as a result of that. You can count on it, because if they're going to act like their personal matters with the president of the United States and name-calling on Twitter, I don't care who comes from first, is going to be their priority instead of the business of the people, they're going to pay for it.
So, Kennedy, I mentioned that Corker is currently the chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, and he went on to say that he thinks that the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, Defense, and the Chief of Staff, John Kelly, are people who help separate our country from chaos with the president each day. That's a big dig at President Trump. Is that appropriate?
It is. No, I think a lot of it is unnecessary. And, you know, I do think that when you engage in stuff like that, if you're running for re-election, it's going to be very problematic. Obviously, he's not. So he's free from some of those party shackles that normally
But do you attack the president? Is that appropriate?
Well, I think it's okay to punch back. If the president takes a few shots at you, that's one thing. And one dig is fine, but if the Democrats are the opposition party and they are your enemy, they are feasting on all of the tidbits that Corker is serving. You know, he's talking about how it's so chaotic in the White House. This is Bob Corker. He's a Republican senator from Tennessee. He's talking about how it's so chaotic in the White House. It's essentially a game of containment, and everyone there is just trying to contain the president and protect the country from him and protect the president from himself.
I don't think people like this. I don't think the average American likes to sit at home and see this happening, this sort of rhetoric, exchange of words, whether it's the same party, different parties. I was chatting with Governor John Sununu this morning, who said, you know, look, Republicans better do one thing, and they better focus on tax reform. I mean, there's an aggressive agenda laid out for now to the end of the year, possibly into the new year. There's a lot of work to do.
So, David, with that having been said, Republicans can probably get tax reform now because they're going to pull across a couple of Democrats, which is, you know, amazing, I suppose, in the scheme of things, because we haven't seen that happen necessarily anywhere else effectively. But most importantly, it speaks to this issue that if there's some Republicans who don't want to get on board, it won't stop this president potentially.
We need tax cuts. If Democrats want to come along, great. It's also why the 2018 elections become all the more important. And talking about Tennessee alone, you're going to have Bob Corker leave, and you're going to take a solid anti-establishment conservative in Marsha Blackburn, who right now is the only one running, a big Trump ally who he will be having after the 2018 elections to help him.
Yeah.